Hey folks, going to give you a quick overview of the DNA structure and learning cycle. When you get to the learning cycle landing page, you'll see the I can statement as well as the cycle overview and the course calendar, of course. Same steps: engage, explore, lesson, apply, and assessment. Engage, you'll have a poll and a discussion. Explore, you'll have a number of things. There's the DNA extraction lab. There's also the DNA model building activity. Now, so when you look, there's a pre-lab for the DNA necklace extraction lab, and there's a virtual lab you're going to complete, answer the questions. You'll submit your answers to this quiz, and then you'll do the actual DNA extraction necklace lab. Now, the DNA necklace extraction lab is optional because it entails gathering your own DNA, and that cannot force you to do that. But I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. You have a nice keepsake you can take home. You can show your parents, hey, I extracted my DNA. Take a look at it. And you see the lab materials on this tray for your DNA necklace lab. You'll see a bunch of these cups filled in with the Gatorade. You'll notice that there are pipettes that are labeled in colors. So you see the pink with the pink, blue with the blue pipette. So those go together. And then for your individual pipettes, when it's time to use your own, you'll see a bag of pipettes back there. As well as all the other materials you'll see here. What's not pictured here is a test tube rack that'll be in front of this tray, and when you're taking a break and it tells you to keep your test tube in the rack, that'll be there. When you finish using all the materials, make sure you rinse out your cup, rinse out your pipette, rinse out your test tube a few times, and then you can sit it into the soapy water that's next to it, and I will thoroughly wash that out. And then that lab is optional, even though the pre-lab is not optional because you need to know the steps, understanding the science behind extracting DNA, but you can choose whether you want to actually extract your DNA. There's also a DNA model building activity that you have to complete and explore. Here in the DNA model building activity or exploration, you'll take some of these pieces of paper. These are the nucleotide pieces that it's referring to. If you There's a step in which it's asking for a sequence from a partner. If there's no one working with you, just let your teacher know, and the teacher can make up a random DNA sequence so that you can have another sequence to answer your questions. Interesting thing about these activities, for the most part, you can be done in any order, even though this pre-lab has to happen before the DNA necklace lab. Although not necessarily, I guess. One thing is that you're going to need a computer to do the virtual lab here. You will not be able to access this virtual lab on your computer, on your iPads. So I would map it out such that perhaps you do this step at home and you can use class time for these two activities. There's a stopping point in the DNA extraction necklace lab where you pause for about 10 minutes. You can get a good amount of this activity done during those pauses. Then you're going on to lesson. There are 2 videos in this cycle that you have to take notes from. There's also, of course, the iBook option for those 2 videos. And make sure the practice quiz you'll see embedded with the video. And there's the typical things you do after you take notes. So that's in lesson 2 lessons instead of 1. Apply and assessment are basically the same. There is no hot seat for this cycle. And there's no quiz. What you're going to do is, since you've been learning about the DNA structure, you're going to make your own 3D model of DNA. Now, you can strive for a level 3, and these are the instructions of what you can do for a level 3. And there's some links to some ideas that you can use if you wanted to. Or you can look at the instructions under assessment for if you're going for mastery credit on this 3D dimensional model. No need to make two models if you wanted a level 4. You can just go directly to these instructions for a level 4.